If you've only ever used oranges for eating, baking, or cleaning, you'll be amazed at what else you can do with them. Before I show you what burning coals, candles, and your heater have to do with oranges, let me first show you why you should throw oranges into your dishwasher. But you shouldn't use whole oranges for this. All you need is the orange peel, which you would normally just throw away after preparing the fruit. So cut the oranges open, use them as you normally would, and then cut the orange peels into slightly thinner pieces, just as you can see here with me, because this way they are perfect for the dishwasher where they serve several functions at once. However, you should remove the coarser fruit pulp so that it doesn't spread throughout the dishwasher. All we need is the peel. By the way, you can also just cut off a bit of the peel, as you see here, and put these individual pieces into the dishwasher. That works just as well. Because of the oils contained in the peel, they are perfect for our dishwasher. Because if you simply place them inside, ideally for example, in the cutlery drawer at the top, or if you have larger pieces, you can also stick them onto these individual prongs so they don't fly around wildly. Now you just need to add some of your dishwasher powder or a tablet and you can run the dishwasher. Thanks to the citric acid, this ensures on the one hand that your glasses and in general your cutlery become beautifully clear. Additionally, this gives your dishwasher a pleasant scent and everything will smell fresh and nice. Since you only need a small amount of the peels here, I'll show you another trick so you'll never want to throw orange peels in the trash again. Because after you've used them, you can also cut them into several small pieces for this trick and then put them in a jar. By the way, it's also important that you can seal this jar. You'll see why in a moment. So now put enough of the peels in here so that the jar is filled almost to the top. In the next step, you'll need some vinegar. Because you should now fill the jar with vinegar until all the peels are completely submerged. Once that's done, you should screw the lid on the jar and place it in a cool, dark spot where you'll leave it to sit for 2 to 3 weeks. Because now all the essential oils from the peels will be released into the vinegar, and that has a truly brilliant advantage. When the time is up, you should pour everything through a sieve, because all you need now is the liquid. It is definitely best to pour it directly into a spray bottle and then fill it up halfway with fresh water, so that you have a perfect 1-to-1 mixing ratio. With this solution, you can now easily clean your entire bathroom and all kinds of different fixtures in your bathroom or kitchen, because it is an incredibly good and effective homemade orange cleaner. Before I show you in just a few moments why you can also use oranges very effectively on your radiator, I first want to show you why you should throw glowing charcoal into an orange peel, because there is also a truly brilliant and useful trick behind this. But we need to prepare everything a bit beforehand. For this, you should only cut off the top of the orange and then, in the next step, carefully remove and then eat the entire fruit. So the peel needs to be almost completely empty, just as you can see here with mine. In the next step, you should poke a few small holes in the piece you cut off at the beginning, because we'll definitely need it again in just a moment. Now, we first need some of this brown powder, which is just regular coffee grounds. Because in the very first step of the process, we start by carefully filling up the bottom part of the orange with coffee grounds, filling it up at least to the halfway point. Then the charcoal comes into play. This is just regular charcoal, like the kind you use for grilling, for example. Ideally, you should use a storm lighter here to get it glowing just a bit, because now you can simply drop it right into the orange. Do you remember the lid that you set aside at the beginning of this process? That's exactly what you should take now and place back on top, because now you can set this orange up somewhere outside. It's important that you only use this outdoors. It will now start to smoke, just as you can see here, and this will keep mosquitoes away from you outside because they really can't stand the smell of the smoldering coffee. By the way, the same goes for wasps. This is how you can keep them away from you. If the whole thing with the glowing coal is just a bit too hot for you, you can simply cut a small piece off the bottom so you can stand it upright. Then cut a slightly thicker piece off the top so you have better access to the fruit flesh inside. Now you should take a knife and carefully cut a small cross in the middle, making sure it goes a little deeper into the orange, but not all the way through to the bottom. After that, you need a stick candle like this one. It can also be a relatively short one. Carve the bottom of it a little so that it becomes a bit pointier, because now you should press it into the orange so that it sinks in nice and deep. Once you've done that, you'll also need a few cloves, because you can now stick them all around the orange, just like you can see here with mine. After that, you'll need 2 wooden skewers. I just used these shashlik skewers and broke them to size a bit, because now one goes in on the right and the other on the left. Because here too, you should set aside the lid from the beginning so you can now place it on top here. This entire setup not only looks incredibly nice and can be easily set up either outside or inside your home, but when you light it, the orange and the cloves also help to keep mosquitoes and other pests away from you, since they really can't stand this strong and particular scent. And before I explain to you what's up with this somewhat strange looking orange, let's first get to the trick with the heater. Because for the heater trick and the orange, you simply need the orange peels again. Ideally though, it should still have the fruit flesh inside. Simply start by cutting off a few small pieces of the peel, as you can see here, and place them into a small bowl. You can now choose to add 1 or 2 whole cinnamon sticks, or if you prefer, simply use some ground cinnamon instead. It is also a great idea to throw in a few cloves for extra aroma and then fill the bowl up with water so that all of the peels are completely submerged. Now once you have this brilliant mixture ready, you can go over to your radiator and gently place it right on top. Now, whenever you turn on your heater, this will ensure that an incredibly pleasant and fresh scent of orange and cinnamon spreads throughout your entire home. But why no one has explained this trick to me until now remains a mystery to me. Because for this, you only need the orange peels that you would otherwise have thrown in the trash, and you should also cut them into a few smaller pieces here. Because after that, you can now start putting them into a blender. In the next step, you should blend them a bit finer, just as you can see here with mine. In the end, the whole thing should look roughly like this, so you can then pour it into a small glass. Here too, you'll definitely need a lid again. Once you've filled the jar a little with this, you'll need some isopropanol. This is 99.9% pure rubbing alcohol, which you now simply add to the jar until all the remaining bits of the peel are submerged under the isopropanol. Stir everything a little more, put the lid on and let it sit for a while. After a certain amount of time, you can pour everything through a sieve again, since you only need the liquid here. What you've made here is an exceptionally high quality essential orange oil, as you can easily observe from the vibrant orange hue. You might have already heard of orange oil cleaner, which many manufacturers sell because it's a real miracle product when it comes to deep cleaning. With this method, you've made it yourself for just a few pennies. With this, you can not only clean your entire bathroom, but it also works perfectly as a small air freshener. This way, you don't just spread the scent in the bathroom while cleaning, but you could also simply put a small amount of it into the cardboard tube inside the toilet paper roll, just the inner cardboard, to ensure a fresh scent in the bathroom every time someone uses the toilet paper. But what exactly is the deal with this somewhat strange looking object? This is actually a brilliant old-fashioned trick that you might remember from your past, but it is something which has unfortunately been completely forgotten today. All you are going to need for this is one single whole orange. First of all, you should poke a few holes in the peel with a toothpick, and then insert cloves into these holes. And really do it so that in the end, the entire orange is covered with these holes. And you have put a clove into every single one of them. That already explains why the orange looks a bit strange. But what exactly is this all about? This is called an orange pomander. You can now place it somewhere where there is a lot of heat, for example on your radiator or on the wood stove if you have a fire burning in it. The advantage is that it will not only create an incredibly pleasant scent throughout your entire home. Over time, the orange will become harder as it dries out. This way, it shouldn't start to mold. Instead, you'll end up with a completely hard orange that you can use as a decoration in your home again and again. This is especially popular during the Christmas season, of course. But unfortunately, I have to tell you that you have probably been using oranges as well as mandarins or clementines incorrectly your entire life. Because if you've always tried to peel them this way to get to the inner fruit, you've really been doing it completely wrong. There's a much easier and more ingenious trick, which I'd like to explain to you in more detail in this video. All you really have to do is simply cut the fruit open just one single time, and you should avoid cutting it in the middle where you see the stem, but instead you need to slice it exactly along the center midline. Because once you've made the cut here, it looks like this. And now all you have to do is firmly press your thumb into the very bottom section, where that small protruding tip or the lower hole is located. Ideally do this with both thumbs so that you can simply flip the peel open, as you can see here. This way, the individual pieces are pushed directly upwards and you can really remove each piece both quickly and very easily. Not only is this easier and keeps your hands much cleaner, but it also ensures that much less of those bitter white pithy fibers stay on the fruit. And by the way, if you want to discover 9 more incredible lemon tricks that everyone should know, then check out the video you now see on the screen. Click on it right away.